Almost 2 years ago now, Matt and I had the opportunity to fly out to the Max Cruise Yard just outside of Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam and take a look at their first completed 44-foot catamaran, the same as what we're building, with the exception of a few changes, like it having dual aft helms and us having a single raised helm, as well as the first hull having a giant island at the sill of the cockpit, where we're keeping our space completely open. 2 months after that trip, we flew back again to be a part of the sea trials for their first electric hybrid engine, which each future hull has gone with since this point. We're now back once again, and with hull 14 just about ready to hit the water, we're going to show you the evolution of the Max Cruise 44 and the enhancements they've made over the past 2 years.
So we're stepping aboard today of the closest 44 to completion. This is hull 14. It's, let's say, 95% there. Being the first hull, we sit there and look at these details every single day. So it's not something that I think everyone will notice, but for us, the nuances, how mature this design has been, from looking at hull 4, which is the one that was in the Annapolis boat show, to looking at hull 6, which is the last one that we sailed, and now seeing hull 14, it's all these little details and the refinements that have been made over the course of time. It's awesome to say that, okay, you have the first one of something, or, you know, this is a new design and it's something that we jumped on. But seeing the changes that have been made now at the factory here, and all these little details, these little, like I said, little nuances, little things that most people aren't going to notice, but makes for much more functional and aesthetically pleasing. You know, there is just something is simple. I'm just going to point to this because it's right here right now, but just the way that they've done the cabin top now, finishing that off. Instead of before, they were going through and hand fairing all that stuff, and it turned out good. This is excellent now. It's a molded piece. It looks absolutely beautiful here, but it then flows into areas like our helm.
This is an area that you'd be familiar with on our boat. We've been spending a lot of time lately. It's the guest aft berth, unique to hull 14 here in the aft berth. So right by the overhead, there's gonna be a few extra cabinets for things. They also have cabinets on the outboard side, going from the floor all the way to the overhead, where ours, you know, we have just like a little bit of the wall there. They've covered that out so it gives great storage here. And this has AC inside. The lights aren't in yet, but the headboard is going to be back there. And then access to the diesel in here, as well as the hybrid engine. And this one even has access in the step here. So just a start battery down there, easy access. We will not have that on ours.
Too complicated to make.
A little too complicated.
So we're gonna end up having to put the start battery probably in the engine bay, which isn't the greatest spot for it, but it's okay. We'll make it work because we're gonna have good ventilation rolling through the whole setup too.
Moving forward here, we have the guest wet head and 2 doors because it's shared between the forward berth and the aft berth. This one has nice little cabinets here, so
No mirror on it yet.
not yet, but I mean, for just test, I don't think they're gonna need.
They need a mirror.
No. I was gonna say they don't need a ton of toothpaste and storage space.
This one has mini keels. It does not have dagger boards. So they still are utilizing the same basic shape of that dagger board case, but instead turned it into really useful storage for the head. It is something I wish I had, but I'd rather have that pointing ability of the dagger boards. But everything else is pretty much the same. It's just now everything is much more refined, but they did such a good job with the line, and it drives me nuts. Up here, they went for full height for the cabinet. And again, that's the biggest thing that I've seen with Max Cruise is each one of these boats is completely different because it depends on what the owner's really looking for, how they're going to utilize the boat. So everything from hull 4, which was outboards and aft helms and dagger boards and all that kind of stuff, to later on where they went with dual hybrid systems and a raised helm. So this is a single hybrid and one side electric motor, so same system that we're actually doing. But even when you get into the interior, each one of these design things are completely unique to each one of the boats. And prime example of that. So they've gone for a kind of a quasi-office area up here. So workshop type of thing. And all it is the difference is this flips up. And some people are going to ask why it flips up this direction, where it ends up blocking the windows. Now, granted, yeah, it would be nice to have the view there. The problem is if you flip this up, it blocks that emergency hatch there. So the important thing is always having access to that emergency hatch. And it also really gives you good ventilation. So if you had this hinged the other direction, where it's flipping up to cover this way and give you those windows on that side, you're blocking your air and you're blocking your emergency escape too.
Lots of storage on the inboard side.
Good storage. And each one of these is different as well. So they chose to have the water maker instead of being installed here. It's actually in the aft berth area on the starboard side. So a bit different there. And then majority of them have sliding doors here. They wanted this with the veneered faces on the front of them for each one of them. And then one of the things that's unique with this as well, and we're still deciding what direction we're going to go for it, but they chose to do the major bulkheads. So this one and the one behind you has a veneer on it. I think we're going to go with a darker paint color, so kind of like a brownish gray for those just to accent, but this looks really nice. Kind of ties in that whole veneer thing. But the last two boats before that went all white, so even the cabinet doors and everything else is completely white on it.
The galley on this boat is going to be more similar to ours, I think, than some of the others, at least as far as the sink area goes. So we've got big basins in here. I don't think we'll have covers over ours, and we don't have the cutout in this area. This is going to be a dish drying rack for this owner. We kind of had the same thing, except for ours is
built in.
Built in, yeah. This comes across and then drops down.
Yeah.
We're going to leave this as open counter space, but this person has a dual burner induction cooktop, and their convection oven is permanently mounted in a space where some of the other owners of Max Cruise have just done a countertop one, which takes up this space. They have also done drawers on the inboard side of the galley, which we'll do for a few hours. Matt has been working on those now. And there are 4 drawer fridges and freezers here. So
the wall of refrigeration.
The wall of refrigeration. We are only going to have a single refrigerator here, and then we have storage going this way, but obviously lots of storage for when you're cruising Florida, the Bahamas, Caribbean. It's going to be very helpful for them. As Matt was saying, they also have the veneered bulkhead here, which we will be painting, but it looks really nice, and then probably plant space where it will be Georgie's nesting area on our boat.
Yeah, I can totally picture Georgie sitting up there. We're going to get a little cat bed or something, probably over on that side, not necessarily in our galley, which is gross. But it is just a perfect area for us to be able to put some plants, grow something. Neither of us have green thumbs at all, so this is going to be an experiment. Yeah, we'll figure out sprouts, I think, is about the extent of it.
Something new that's also been done to the interior of these, which we haven't seen yet, just photos of, but we're really liking, is the overhead. So on the first few, they would just do a liner kind of like in a wing shape, and then they would flare out the remaining part of the overhead by the cockpit. Now it is fully covered, and they also have a cross beam.
Something we are definitely going to copy is this cross beam here. It's non-structural, but it does allow a good run for wiring in there. You can put additional lights in there, of course. But the big thing is that it breaks up these panels. So the overhead panels, they're incredibly lightweight. They're made with Nida core, so that honeycomb type of stuff that we're using. But even then, when you're spanning 10 foot long, 4 feet wide, they do still get fairly heavy. So the idea is to break that up, and now you're able to service each one of these sections easier. And quite frankly, visually, I think it looks much better with that setup too, instead of just one big dull panel. This breaks it up and adds some kind of flair to it. Now, of course, cushions aren't in place yet, lights aren't in yet. That's one of the last things that they actually do, or put those things in. So we're getting 99% done, or 98% done the way we're seeing this boat. The owner on this one also chose to have black out all the way around. The idea behind it is when you're looking out the windows and you've got that beautiful scene, you're not paying attention to these uprights and everything else if they're in white. By blacking it out, it makes you pay attention to what's through the windows and it all kind of blends in together. I'm not 100% on either direction. We don't know which way we're going to go yet, but that'll be one of the last things we do. Being a hybrid boat with hybrid on one side, electric motors on the other side, batteries of course are important. Those are installed in this area, so that you have access to them in the front. And then this area opens up too, so you get access there. All the electrical system controls are in here. Now ours is going to be a little different because of the digital switching, the C-ring setup. And of course, since we don't have a nav desk, we have that big U-shaped settee. All of this type of stuff is going to be installed in this area for us. So we're going to configure it a bit different than the way this is set up, but this is how they've evolved by increasing that nav area, because with the 48 volt and 12 volt system that they have, the hybrid, there adds a lot more complexity to the electrical system, and a lot more switches are necessary, so it takes a bit more real estate as we're seeing here. Area along here. The other hulls that we've seen or been aboard so far, production ones, have been typically dagger board setup, and they've also had full height cabinets. This owner decided to go with something similar to the way that we did ours and bring the cabinet down lower here, which gives a little bit more of an open space feel. At least Jess and I feel that way. With having that counter down like this, of course, it's a bit more open in area, gives an impression of a bit more width through this area. But we can see here, which is driving me absolutely crazy, is the perfect line that they have. It's probably hard to tell in this lighting right now, but it is flawless. The finish in here is absolutely flawless, and it's driving me insane looking at this and knowing that they obtained this in 2 months, I think, of interior work, where we take 2 years and we still can't get the damn thing. Final electrical installs getting done. They went with full Victron system, dual inverter chargers here. This area are your DC to DC converters, and again, this is getting finished off. And then the MPT solar controllers, MPPT solar controllers are actually in that area. We're going to have ours split between forward and aft. It's going to be a little bit different of a configuration, but a lot of that is because of our not having the nav desk there. We're able to move things around because we get a little bit more storage with that.
Forward still into the master head.
Yeah.
This is going to be a little darker because, again, they're still working on getting the lights.
Yeah, no light in there yet. They do have the Daewoo Mini washer, which is a nice setup, but since they don't make a 110 volt or a US voltage version, and we don't necessarily need one, we're not going that. Storage.
And there will be a mirror that gets placed on the front of that.
Yep, so mirror there. And then they do have some additional storage. This is their holding tank set up here. Another cabinet above here, which we do not have in ours. It does, I'm kind of regretting not having this one because it makes a very good point to run wires for like the nav lights and that kind of stuff forward through this watertight bulkhead. Unfortunately, we got to snake ours through in a different direction because we don't have it. Answer your question, Justin. Guessing these are the doors for that area back there.
And the master berth.
Yeah, master berth, going to be configured similar to what we are. can see the electric motor in there. Again, same system that we're having. The only difference that we have is we have another bulkhead here dividing this area up a little bit more, where we're going to be able to put like our air conditioner, the compressor here. In this particular boat, they have the water maker installed. We have ours forward. So again, just each boat is going to be individual for the way that the owner is going to be using it. But this is kind of how our engine bay is going to look. You can see all that space that we gain around it by not having a big diesel there.
Next big change that we haven't seen on the future boats, but we'll get to experience on Terry's in a few days in Thailand, is they have gotten rid of the kind of bar that sits here at the sill to the cockpit.
For some of them.
For some of them.
Yes.
And they have replaced it with an L-shaped settee out here, which then allows a permanent table to sit in, because with the doors not having to flip up, that just closes like that.
So this is more of a conventional type setup that you have in a lot of catamarans, where it's not completely open like we're doing. They've broken it up by having that L-shaped settee here, the cockpit seats, and then the doors can close. That's this particular owner's choice. So you can see here, it is nice dual sliding doors. And we've been debating that question of exactly how we're going to do our doors. Are we going to do dual doors like this from both directions, so 4 doors total coming together? Or are we going to do like some and have the center section flip up and the other 2 doors on the outside, pocket doors? Now actually seeing this dual door setup in person, I actually like it. I think it's a good setup.
Yeah, it is nice.
It's a good way to do it, and it seems really secure.
And now that leads us to the raised helm, which has been reworked a little bit. We started showing photos in our own video of how they were starting to reconfigure this.
I don't know how these guys do it, because last photos I saw just recently, this was still very mocked up in rough condition. And in the past, I don't know, a couple of days, basically, they've gone through and done all this finish work on it. It looks amazing, absolutely incredible. Of course, we're gonna have this seat here. It's not in place yet. The soft good type of stuff isn't in here yet, but they have the recess built in for the hybrid system, so you have the controllers there, system for their beta for the diesel side of it. The same basic configuration that we're doing, dual winches, clutches up front here. Difference they've done is they've put these so they're straight up. Ours are going to be going at the angle. Just depends on how you want the lines to feed in as to which way to do that. I prefer it a little bit at the angle, but I think for a production boat, most people are expecting the winches to actually set like this, so
and
that's
they've got
okay there.
The hard top over with a viewing window, so you can see your sails.
Bimini on this particular one, the owner's a bit taller, so they did raise that just a little bit, but they've done a really good job with the finish work on this too. Little things, details like this bar that runs along, so you're able to tension this down, these windows properly, and get rid of these wrinkles that are in it. But it's really cool seeing the finished model of what they're doing with this particular boat, and just seeing how all this stuff works together. And now we know ours is going to work out too, because the dimensions are basically the same. It's just the finish work that they've done that's different than what we're going to configure ours. I was thinking when they originally were talking about the cabinets over this inboard side that it was going to take away from the feeling of space in here. Once you get a mattress in, I thought it might be a little bit tight, and surprisingly they actually are very functional size. Now these don't have the full flow coat inside of them, but gives you an idea. There's tons of storage space that this gives, and it really doesn't take away from anything that I see here. Actually, I like it just from a visual standpoint too, because the way we have it is just one big panel along here. This breaks it up just enough, and especially when they get the door fronts on and you have that nice veneered finish there, I think it's going to make that really, really stand out. Now this is the hybrid system based on the Beta 35. Again, we're the 28 horsepower Yanmar NR, so the 3YM. A little bit different. We're going to have just a bit more space because it's a smaller engine, but gives you an idea of how this is all laid out. Some of the pumps, filters, all of that stuff. So still a huge engine bay here, even with that diesel and the hybrid system in there. Was a little worried that it was going to take up a lot of space and kind of make it less user friendly when you need to get in there and do maintenance. But as you can see, there's tons of walk around space all the way around. Not a problem at all. And because we're just an electric on the other side, we have gained all that extra room there where the diesel isn't.
Our Vietnam adventures aren't finished yet, so make sure to stay tuned to next week's episode where we see Max Cruise's newest editions of their 48 and 55-foot catamarans, with the first hull of the 48 hopefully launching in the next few weeks and making its way to the Annapolis Boat Show this fall.